Scream 6. Again, I won't spoil it. You haven't seen it, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I won't spoil it. It was so good. I've talked about it over the course of the last week, especially since I've been binging the Scream movies. I've just been talking about Scream. Scream's great.
Right.
Uh, Let me give my spoiler-free review. I'll have again, another separate spoiler-filled section with a friend of mine who I went to go see it with, and maybe one other person who might see it before then. So we'll see. Um, so I did a Scream marathon with said friend because I got two tickets and then asked them if they wanted to come with me. I got two tickets just in case somebody wanted to come, and they said yeah, but they said they hadn't seen any of the Screams, and I said how. So we went through a marathon. I had previously watched both Scream 4 and 5 for the first time. Not in that order. I watched 5, then 4. I kind of went backwards. I watched 5, 4, then rewatched 3 for the first time in years, and then ended up rewatching them all in order with my friend. We watched the first three all in one sitting, and then the second two in another sitting, and then a week after that we went to go see 6. Um, and 6 couldn't have been better. It really couldn't have. It was a breath of fresh air that the franchise needed while not feeling so different that it felt like it wasn't, part of this franchise. I would compare Scream 5 to The Force Awakens. It's a new entry in a decades old franchise that introduces new characters and a bit of a rehash of the original. Where
Mm-hmm.
Scream 6 succeeded where I think The Last Jedi didn't in moving the franchise in a new direction while still holding on to what makes the franchise special. Um, yeah, it was. I liked it a lot, and it's been getting rave reviews. Yeah, I'll talk more in detail about the things I like about it in a minute. So, from this point forward, full spoilers for Scream 6. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, you should leave right now. So, I'm bringing in my friend Takira to help me with this review because we went to go see Scream 6 together. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey there, I'm Takira, prefer to go by Kira, an aspiring voice actress who just watched all the Scream movies.
Fantastic. So, Kira, we went to go see Scream 6, but before that, you've never seen any of the Scream movies. Uh, so, what was your experience like watching the first five movies?
It was different. Like I had always known about Scream, I had always heard about Scream, but it wasn't. It was different actually watching the movies and actually, being able to experience that for the first time. I wish I had seen them sooner.
Yeah. How would you rank the five movies if you can? Only
Mm,
the first five, not including six.
only the first five.
Yeah.
I like the first one the best. That would be number one. Um, probably, probably three would be second. Then five. No, no, no. I'm sorry. Then yeah, five, two, then four.
Yeah, I think mine's is similar. I would go one, three, then probably, yeah, five, four, then two.
Yeah, I didn't really like. Well, I don't want to say I didn't like it, but four was not my favorite one.
I like four a lot more the second time around than I did the first time. Two,
Yeah, I probably have to give it a second watch.
two is all right. Two is definitely my least favorite, but including six, six would definitely usurp number three as my second favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, six was great. So yeah, so that opening sequence was great. It was a great subversion of our expectations. We're so used to having that the title card pop up right after that final knife slash on the first victim.
Right.
But when it happens and the title card doesn't happen, I was just waiting for it, and it just keeps going. And then we see the killer take their mask off, and we see who it is. I thought that I for a second thought that we were just gonna be following the killer for the whole movie, but then it turns out no, that's not the case at all. There will be a giant spoiler button up on the screen, but I'll say extra spoiler alert right here. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that opening was amazing. The
Yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely really different. Like I was not expecting that at all. Like having seen all of them, I, seeing them, and then for it to have changed the formula like that, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that was definitely a goal they had. I watched a podcast by Did Meet. I've actually showed you one of their videos specifically on Scream, where they do a kill count, where they go through horror movies and count the kills and discuss about like behind the scenes stuff. And they're actually friends with Radio Silence, the group of creators that led the last two Scream movies, and they talked about Scream
Mhm.
6, and I got a lot of insight into the inner workings of that movie. And it was definitely their goal. Like the fifth movie was very similar to the first one in a lot of ways, and it was very by the books.
Mhm.
Whereas this one, they went out of their way to make it different, and also kind of really highlight all of these characters. The core four are all great. They're all really good characters, and I'm glad they all survived. I thought that one dude was gonna make it, but
No, same. And I think it's different. It definitely reels in that new kind of, I want to say like generation, which is kind of what it is, of people who will start watching the movies now. Like I even fall into that because I've never seen them until recently. So it it gives a new fresh take on the newer kind of thing that they're trying to do with Scream, and helps it so that it still is fresh while also keeping that same Scream formula that they've had for years.
yeah, and what was I gonna say? It was dope. Them bringing back Hayden Panettiere, but they did. There actually was an Easter egg in the fifth movie of her still being alive. There was a scene where they're watching a YouTube video on a laptop, and actually the people in that YouTube video is a cameo from Did Meet, the YouTube channel I just mentioned. And
Oh,
and like one of the suggested videos on the side was like a video talking about how her character Kirby survived. So it was actually known that
oh wow.
that character survived before the movie came out.
I wouldn't have never noticed that
Yeah,
without it being pointed out.
yeah, and she was in the trailers, but you didn't really pay attention to any trailers, especially after I told you we was gonna go see it.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, a lot of the public hate that Sam Carpenter, that character, gets in the movie is actually meant to reflect the hate that the actress got, because a lot of people,
Oh.
people are weird, especially online, where they feel like they have a level of protection from consequences. They just like to be
Hmm.
real mean, and it's okay for people not to like that movie. I personally like it a lot, but it's okay for people not to like it, and it's okay for you to talk about why you didn't like it. But that doesn't mean you need to start attacking the people who worked on that project, or threatening them or anything like that. And yeah,
Yeah.
she came into this project with a bit of a chip on her shoulder to try and really show the people how her character is different from the previous main protagonist, and I think she did a great job. Like as messed up as it is, and it shouldn't have had to happen for this to happen, it kind of did result in, I feel like, a better story and maybe even better acting on her part because of the bit of the hardship she had to go through, even though she shouldn't have had to in the first place.
Yeah, it was definitely different.
But
The her introduction was definitely a change of pace.
yeah, just her that whole kind of, I guess, storyline of people blaming her for those killings was very very interesting. But even in Scream 5,
Yeah.
they sowed the seeds of her being a bit of a violent person, and I feel like that's a way that Sam is different from Sydney. Is that Sydney wants to know parts of anything that's happening, and early on Sam doesn't
Hmm.
either. Like she's constantly very concerned about her sister Jenna Ortega's character, but by the end of it, she's kind of having fun murdering the other killers, and
Yeah, and
it's
like
very interesting. I'm very interested to see where they're gonna go with that.
I was just about to bring that up. I wonder what they're going to do with that part of her character because they make it something that they want, I guess, the viewer to know. And so I do wonder what they're going to do with that and part of her character.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I have a feeling. her character's gonna end up in jail at some point. I just feel like that's gonna happen. It would be interesting to have a Scream movie that takes place in a prison.
In prison.
Yes.
I, I don't know. That sounds like an interesting concept. I can't think of it right this second, but I'm sure there's some kind of way they can implement something like that.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I got. Anything else you got while I'm thinking?
Uh, no, just interested to see where they take the series from here. Really.
Yeah, so yeah, before we wrap up, let's talk about the killers actually. This is the first time there was more than two killers. There were three. And it took you a while to figure out, but like almost immediately after I saw that there were three killers and that the father was the killer, I was like, oh, the other killer is the daughter that we thought died, Quinn. I was like, oh yeah, that's her.
In the moment, I had my doubts, and I definitely thought it was the twin girl. I can't remember her name at the top of my head from the core for just like a split second after the boy took his mask off. I had my doubts about that, but I still had thought it was her only because of the thing with the train, and they were very vague about what happened and how where she was now. But and then also he was there. And so I was like, well, they're saying they're supposed to be together. He's there, so she got to be there. And so of course it didn't register in my brain. And I think that, that was kind of like the point, like to leave that suspense so that you then find out that she was the one. I didn't think about it. But then realizing that she ended up being, it was like, oh, wow. And I think that was kind of the point. Like, there are people like you who can figure it out immediately. Oh, that's, the one that you thought died is there. And then there's people like me who was like, I think it's somebody else. And then it turns out to be somebody. I think that's just the point of the twist.
Yeah, it makes for good fun.
Yeah.
That kind of when they tried to like shift the blame onto Kirby, they had me for a while until I felt like he was being way too suspicious. I was like, I don't know. But yeah, that
Up until he shot Kirby, I would have never suspected him whatsoever.
yeah, it was
I
definitely
suspected Kirby the whole movie only because of her coming back. Then up like literally up until he shot her, I was like, "Oh, it's not Kirby." Wow.
yeah, a lot of what they've been doing in these last two films as well is establishing a new core, you know, cast, and
Mhm.
they killed off Dewey, and who knows if Gail will show up again? She might, and Sydney wasn't in this movie. The reason she wasn't in this movie was actually about some shady stuff behind the scenes that I don't really know anything about. I've only heard some very loose things, something about maybe her not being paid enough, so she didn't want to come back. But yeah, it seems like maybe if anything, Gail might be the only character to return at some point, and they'll be
I
moving
will say,
forward
to be fair,
with the core
I
four.
think them fizzling them out. Sorry, I think them fizzling them out is not in this instance not a bad thing because they have now created that opening for these newer characters to be the main characters, and so bringing back those older characters, I didn't even expect them to bring back any of them. Because bringing back, well, except for Kirby because she was kind of a twist, but bringing back those characters is it at this point it just feels like it's kind of stretching it out because their time has gone and passed. They're now creating this pathway for these new characters. So it's no point for the older character to be there. Sydney's absence didn't make or break the movie. Six was still a good movie. So
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't trying to say that they need to come back. I actually don't want them to because Sydney deserves to have her happy ever after she went through this 5 times. Yeah, let that lady be happy. But I don't know about Gail. She might still show up. We'll see.
I think Gail will show up. I think if she does show up, this will be Gail's last run. Just because she's getting older, she then almost died twice. Like it's just at this point where it's just They didn't took away Dewey, they didn't took away Sydney, they didn't took away like just all the. They might as well just take away Gail, and I think Gail is just her time is coming.
Yeah, it's funny watching Friends and seeing a young Courtney Cox after seeing an older her in Scream 6.